I had the volume down. I'm such a moron. So you didn't hear anything that I just said. All right, so let's start over again. All right, so there is and has been a war between Jupiter and Saturn. And Jupiter and Saturn have been at war since the beginning of the solar system. The deities associated with Saturn and the deities associated with Jupiter are in a constant war. Constant war for your soul. And you have been told that Saturn is the force that is keeping you from experiencing freedom. That is true. You have been told that there is such a thing called this Saturn Moon matrix, and that the Saturn Moon matrix prevents you from achieving liberation, and that there is this thing called the Saturn Moon matrix, which forces you to become reincarnated against your will. You've been led to believe that there are beings out there, and there's all kinds of names for these beings. We can call them the Anunnaki. We can call them the reptilians. We can call them the archons. We can call them all kinds of names, but you've been led to believe there are beings out there who have the power to prevent you from achieving your own self-realization and from achieving your freedom. But what if I were to tell you? What if I were to tell you that if it weren't for the planet Saturn, you would be dead? Worse than that, if it weren't for the planet Saturn, you would never have been able to take life. What if I told you that? You know, we hear all kinds of things we don't want to hear, like, without death, there can be no life. Without pain, there can be no joy. And I am the first one to admit that in this day and age in our society, and in this age that we are living in, we're coming out of Kali Yuga, the age of darkness, and we're coming out of the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. We are coming out of the worst epoch in human history. And this last epoch, which the center of it was the Middle Ages, was the darkest time for human life ever in this entire existence we've ever had, for however long you wish to believe that humans have been alive. We're making our way out of that, thank the gods, but we're not out of it yet. And so what we have in our society, we are really seeing that there is an epidemic of pain and misery and sadness and depression. We've got kids who aren't even out of high school, going into schools with automatic weapons and shooting things up. That's a sign that something is really wrong. We have an entire generation, or I would say a couple of generations of people who honestly feel as though they live in a computer program. They can't tell the difference between a real human being and what they call a bot. I remember having that thought long before any of that was ever popular. I remember being a little kid and thinking that the people around me were robots and that I was the only one that actually had human emotions. It's a horrible, horrible place to be in. And so we take half-truths and we apply them to our life. The half-truth is that Saturn is the planet of karma, is the planet of lessons, is the planet of restriction, is the planet of death, is the planet of disease, old age. And if Saturn in your astrological chart is not happy, then you will have misery. Saturn is responsible for all of those things. But again, what if I told you that if it weren't for Saturn, Jupiter would destroy your ability to live. What brought this to mind was I was watching some Netflix thing about the universe, and they were talking about that the orbit of the planets around the sun are, we've thought, throughout, the brief time of modern astronomy, we have thought that the orbits of the planets are set and that they work like clockwork and that it's very, orderly. And what these astrophysicists are saying is that they're coming to the conclusion that actually the orbit of the planets in our solar system is a very violent, tumultuous, chaotic thing, and that the planets as they are now are a very unlikely scenario. That something happened within the history of our solar system that has allowed for our planets to align in this way, and that left to itself, this wouldn't happen. And if you look out there at, they found other planets now in other solar systems, and what they found is that there are these gas giants. Jupiter is a gas giant. Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system, has a huge gravitational field, huge. I mean, the sun has a larger gravitational field than Jupiter, but Jupiter is almost a sun in and of itself. In fact, if it had more gas and more mass, it would collapse into itself and turn into a star. And what happens in these other solar systems is that these gas giants orbit very close to the sun, and they call them hot Jupiters because they're about the size of our Jupiter and they're very close to those suns. And when that happens, when you got those hot Jupiters orbiting the sun, no other planets can form. And so something very chaotic must have happened in our solar system to have Jupiter as far away as it is. Now, Jupiter, where it is now, actually is the protector of planet Earth, because there is this asteroid field out there that if it weren't for Jupiter's gravitational field, these asteroids would be pelting us, and there wouldn't be enough. There wouldn't be any life. And you can see the history of this in the moon. The moon is pelted with them. You can see all where the moon's been pelted and all that kind of stuff. And every now and then, when an asteroid does come through, it destroys most of the life. But Jupiter is protecting us. So Jupiter now is the protector of humankind. But in the beginning of our universe, Jupiter was not helping us, because in the beginning, first the sun formed. Forgive me, I'm not a physicist, but this is the best way I can explain it. The sun formed, and the sun is responsible for the formation of all the other planets. And the sun formed, and then the first planet to have been formed very quickly after that was Jupiter. And Jupiter did what these hot Jupiters do, these gas giants, and it came very close to the sun, and it was just orbiting around the sun. Now, when that was happening, somewhere along the line, Saturn formed. Saturn is also a gas giant. And Saturn formed, and Saturn was pulled into the gravitational field of the sun, and it came hurtling towards the sun. And what ended up happening is that Jupiter and Saturn started fighting with each other. They were orbiting around each other, and their fight threw them out of close orbit around the sun and flew them out into what we now call the outer planets, very far away from us. And so that got me thinking, because it helped me to realize that that's really true. If it weren't for Saturn's limitation, Jupiter would in its zeal would create conditions that would not allow for life. So let's talk about Jupiter deities, so you know what I'm talking about. In astrology, Jupiter is seen as one of the great benefics. In fact, one of the first things you do is you look to see where Jupiter is, because Jupiter is going to tell you whether or not you can have kids, whether you're going to be rich, whether Jupiter lends its aspect and its relationship to bring good things most of the time. Sometimes Jupiter can cause problems, but most of the time, Jupiter is like Santa Claus and wants to give you good things because Jupiter is seen as an agent of life. Why is that? Because Jupiter is expansion. When you inhale, that is Jupiter. When you exhale, that is Saturn. If you were to inhale and there were no exhale, what would happen? You would explode. So when it comes to the power of life, that expansion of life has to be checked. And this is what Saturn does. Saturn brings limitation so that life can exist. Now, if all we had was the influence of Saturn, which is limitation, then no life would exist because Saturn is too harsh. Saturn is your karma, and your karma is, in case you don't know, in case you're new to the channel, karma is not your sins. Karma is neither good nor bad. Karma just means the result of your actions. That's all it means. And the truth of the matter is, if you are alive, if you are breathing, it means that there is more positive karma than negative, because if you had an overabundance of negative karma, you would be dead. So if you are alive and you're breathing and you have food in your refrigerator and you have a computer in front of you and you can understand the words that I'm saying, then you have more positive karma than negative. So let's get out of the victim mentality just for a moment. I'm not trying to take away whatever challenges you may be having. So, but Saturn wants you to work through your choice to misunderstand your nature. Did you hear what I said? I want you to write this down. Saturn wants to help you understand your choice to misunderstand your true nature. It means that all of the challenges that you face, all of the misery that you're experiencing is a result of choices that you have made, which were choices to your choosing not to understand. And when you choose not to understand what's right in front of you, Saturn goes, hang on a second. I'm not going to let you get away with that. Let's come back and look at that. When you take actions that is out of alignment with your true soul, then you create challenging karma for yourself, which means you have to live it out. And Saturn says, hang on a second, man. You can't gamble all of your kids' money away. Let's take you back. Let's deal with that. That's what that is. And what happens is we forget and we become like little children and we whine and complain and we say, why is life so hard on me, and blah, blah, blah. And then we have the power of Jupiter, which it expands. If it weren't for Jupiter, karma's influence or the payback for our choice to misunderstand, Saturn would be constantly shoving our face into our crap like we do, when dogs poop on the carpet. We take their nose and we shove it into the poop, right? So don't do that. That's bad. So Saturn does that. Saturn will go, listen, you crapped on the carpet. I want you to smell it for a while. It doesn't smell very good, does it? Are you sure you want to keep doing this? And you can flail around all you want, but it's, you can't fight against that. So let's go back to Jupiter's expansion. So in the Norse tradition, we have an interesting aspect to the power of Jupiter. So the deity associated with Jupiter is Thor. And Thor is the protector of human beings. He brings life. And he fights against the giants. So what's interesting is that in the eastern direction, I haven't talked about it a lot lately, but in Thunder Shamanism, the eastern facing direction is the direction for the giants. And we know this from Norse mythology that Thor is always going out to the east to fight the giants, because where do the giants live? They live in the east. The east is the realm of the element ether. Ether is the expansive energy of spirit. So the ironic thing is that the East is one of the most sacred directions. That's why people just default face the East when they pray. It's because the East is a sacred direction. It's the direction of life. And in that direction, we have the expansive power of ether, which is life force energy. Whenever you do Qigong or whenever you do breath work, anything that has to do with generating life force energy, energy is coming from the East. It's the Eastern direction. But we have the giants in the Eastern direction as well. And what do the giants represent? The giants are harmful. If we let the giants come in, they would destroy everything. The Greek representation of the Cyclops, the guy with one eye in his forehead. It doesn't mean his third eye is open. It means he doesn't have two eyes, which means he doesn't have any depth perception, which means that he's incapable of empathizing. Giants are just all about their own expansion, and they are clueless that they don't allow anybody else to live in the universe. They walk around and pick people up and bite their heads off and stomp on houses and grab the sheep and eat the sheep. They're totally clueless to anything around them. So you need Thor, like the policeman of the universe, to come and push them back. Because Thor himself is half giant. And he's also half celestial god. And he now protects life. But if we let Jupiter by itself, if there was no Saturn influence, that expansive force of life force energy would create a soup where nothing could exist. So it really got me thinking about that. And I got a message on one of my videos today. It was actually very disturbing when I get some of these. People want to know, they can't stomach the idea that I choose to stay in the matrix. I have a video called The 5 Rules to Master the Matrix. And people ask me, if you've mastered the matrix, why haven't you left? And I say, because I'm having too much fun. And some people just can't accept that. They can't accept the idea that our souls choose to be here. This is one of the most tragic things about how we view life now, is that there are so many people who are so sad and so depressed, and they've been programmed to be fearful and programmed to believe that they are so weak that they are able to be controlled by all these other forces, that they have no tools to deal with their own karmic challenges. They are overwhelmed by their own karmic challenges because they don't have the tools to know how to manipulate this universe to serve their will. It's a very sad thing. So the 5 Rules to Master the Matrix is about that. I recommend go to either of these links up here. By the way, hit subscribe, hit the bell button. The links are here for a reason. Go check them out. So I want you to take a different look at Saturn. And right now, astrologically speaking, we have Saturn and Ketu in Sagittarius. So we've got Saturn and Ketu, and by the sign of Sagittarius, we have Jupiter. Ketu is truth. It is ultimate spiritual truth, which is death. Death that takes you out of this life. And Saturn is what we talked about, is karma, is lessons, is the law, is restriction. So when Saturn and Ketu come together, you have a very powerful spiritual impetus to reject illusion. And this can be very challenging because when you're trying to reject illusion and you live in illusion, it makes things, because this life is an illusion, but it is an illusion of our own making. And then you have, through the sign of Sagittarius, you have Jupiter looking down with his beneficent spiritual energy. So I want to go back to the beginning of the solar system. The beginning of the solar system, when the sun came to be and then started to create the planets. The first planet that was created was Jupiter. Jupiter hugged the sun and was circling very close to the sun and made it impossible for other planets to be formed. And astronomers called Jupiter a bully at that point. Jupiter was the bully of the solar system because he wasn't allowing anybody close to the sun. That is actually what Jupiter is. Jupiter is the planet of spirituality. Jupiter is the priest because Jupiter wants to be close to the soul. The sun is the soul, your soul. So the planet Jupiter wants you to experience your life from the soul's perspective, wants you to enjoy this life. Jupiter is a very happy planet when it's not retrograde. Very happy, loving, generous planet. But its zeal for the soul in the beginning of the solar system was so strong, it wouldn't let anybody else come to life. And so what had to happen is that Saturn was formed shortly after that. And Saturn started spiraling towards the sun. And the fight between Saturn and Jupiter is what knocked them out of their close orbit and put them in the faraway orbits that they're at now, and allowed for Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars to be formed. And of course, if it weren't for the Earth being formed, we wouldn't have a place to live. So I want you to think about that. You know, we really need to change the way we look at our challenges in our life. And, you know, I straddle this razor blade because I get really frustrated. I have no patience for victims. I have no patience for them. I should have more compassion for them because it's the compassion that allows people to grow past it. But, you know, that's my thing. I can't tolerate pussies, you know, and I've gone through, trust me, I've gone through perhaps more challenges than many of you. But I've learned through the 5 rules to master the matrix. I've learned how to enjoy this life. And then I've learned that, you know, when you enjoy this life, when you really honestly, you're not in denial, you really do enjoy this life, then you start to think about, wow, I don't want to leave. I'm having too much fun. It really changes. Anyway, so those are some things I wanted to share with you guys. I will take some questions if you want. If you're new to the channel, please write the word question and then type in a readable question, and I'll be happy to answer you. So I don't know. Let's take a look and see if there are any questions here. You guys, thanks for yelling at me. You couldn't hear me. Anyway, there it is. All right, so. All right, here we go. So let's see. So yeah, I don't see any questions here. Am I not? Why are there no questions? There are no questions. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. What I'm going to do in the meantime, we'll talk about the power of Saturn here for a moment, and I'll come back. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer it. Let's take a look at celestial Qigong, which is in fact the power of Saturn. Or, excuse me, it's not the power of Saturn, it is the power of Jupiter. Sorry. Hi, I'm Michael Denny of SpiritTao.com, and this is Celestial Negung Part 1. Celestial Negung means that this is power that is descending from heaven. And the idea is that we are all microcosms of the entire universe. You are the entire universe, and everything around you is simply the projection. You are looking within yourself. So when you look up into the stars at night, you're actually looking deep within your own body. When you look at the sun, the moon, the trees, the flowers, you're looking within yourself. This is Neko. And so what we're doing is we're simply releasing that infinity from within us. You are tapping into and releasing the power that is within our own body, our own cells, our own organs. So one of the reasons that I'm making this DVD is in the hope that the essence and the spirit of the teaching of the Shang Qing arts can be taught to the world at large, and it is my hope that the core essence of what the Shang Qing tradition is will continue to live and grow and evolve. As we move on into the Aquarian age, everything is changing. I don't need to tell you that. The entire world is changing, and what we are seeing now is that if people hold on to external things, they are very challenged in life. And those who are making the transition into the next phase that we are moving into in the world as we approach 2012, those who look within and find their source of strength from within, those are the people who are getting the most out of life and will make the transition into the next phase of evolution most comfortably. It is my belief that the Shang Qing tradition is one method whereby human beings can evolve into the next level of being in the most comfortable fashion and be able to take advantage of the rapid, energetic, mental, and spiritual changes that are going on in the world today. Okay, make sure that I turn the sound back on when I come back. So before I forget, for the month of May, which is halfway over, I have this. Where is it? Where'd it go? So for the month of May only, I am offering 2-for-1, which is you get the astrology certification course, and you have the rune certification course, 2 for the price of 1. So that's only for the month of May, and to take a look at those, you can go to 241.thunderwizard.com. Okay? All right. And of course, as always, check out these links, neo.thunderwizard.com and courses.thunderwizard.com. You know, I have to say that in terms of what we're talking about today, but just in general, one of the most valuable courses I offer is the 5 rules to master the matrix. Seriously, if you haven't gotten that entire course yet, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because if you want to complain about how the world isn't doing this or how the world isn't doing that or life doing this to me and doing that to me, you know, it's hard for me to have compassion for people who complain about their life when I'm giving you the tools. You don't have to become enlightened. You don't have to do anything. If you follow those rules that are laid out in the 5 rules to master the matrix, you can get the universe to bow to your will. And then you can stop complaining about how miserable life is and how poor you are and whatever else, and you can, you know, create the life that you want. So that'll be up here in either of these links, neo.thunderwizard.com or courses.thunderwizard.com. All right, so let's see if there are any questions. I didn't see any before, but let's take a look here. Okay, so out of the blue, yes, please write the word question so that I know you're asking a question. You asked, what does the Rahu node represent? Well, you're able to say Rahu, so you must know something about Rahu. Rahu is the north node of the moon. Rahu represents your unfulfilled desires that bring you into manifestation. So let's get rid of, you know, the old ideas that your manifestation as a human being is a punishment for mistakes or sins in past lives. It's really quite sad that people believe that, because the truth is that in order just to have the opportunity to incarnate as a human being, you have to be a very evolved entity. I'm not kidding you, all of the entities wish they were human. And that's because they're able to see, we've forgotten, we've chosen to forget, because if we don't forget, we can't play the game. We can't learn and we can't get all the magical stuff that happens down here if we remember who we are. People want to know, why can't I remember who I was? Well, because if you remembered who you were, then it would be cheating and you wouldn't gain anything from it. So we choose to forget to come here. But all of the other entities in the cosmos who can see and remember look down and say, I wish I could be human. I'm going to sneeze. Excuse me. They all wish that they could be human because they can see how much power there is. And one of the things that Saturn does is Saturn creates restriction so that we don't, all become, Darth Vaders. Because that's one of the things that would happen. If we knew of our power and we weren't operating from our highest awareness, we would all become Darth Vaders. We would all become selfish. And this comes back to your question about Rahu. Rahu is Darth Vader. Darth Vader is Rahu out of control. Rahu is the head of the snake. He was a snake and his head was cut off, and he has this incredible mind and this amazing imagination, and he thinks about all of the things that he wish he could do, all of the food he could eat, all of the women he could sleep with, all of the drugs he could take, all of the money he could have and the power. And because he's just a floating head, he can't do anything about it. It drives him crazy. And so he represents our unfulfilled desires that bring us back into this world. And ultimately, the lesson of Rahu is that everything you think you want, you should go after, but ultimately you will realize it is not fulfilling. And the only thing that is fulfilling is the spirit, being connected to true spirit. So there's your question. That's one of the things that Rahu represents, but it depends on where he is in your chart. Hal Seer, question: do you see Saturn as a malefic? Well, yeah. I mean, a malefic means that it brings challenge and potential misery. So this is true. Saturn brings death. Saturn brings illness. Saturn brings disease. Saturn brings poverty. Saturn brings that, but Saturn itself isn't the one that causes all of those things. That's our reaction to it. And again, the whole point of Saturn, when Saturn sits on you, it's this force that the harder you push back against it, the heavier he becomes. And our first reaction when Saturn sits on us is that we fight back. And somebody is having Saturn problems when what they want to do is complain about authority figures. So if you want to complain about the government or about the elites or about the Anunnaki or about the demons, the archons, if you are one of those people who complains about that, I don't even have to know anything about you. I already know that Saturn is sitting on you and you're fighting with your own choices to walk away from your highest awareness. And Saturn is sitting on you. So Saturn is actually your best friend, because Jupiter, Jupiter's like grandma and grandpa. If your kids have cavities, your mom is acting like Jupiter and saying you can't have any more sugar, or taking you to the doctor or the dentist. And grandpa says, come here. And he pulls out, candy and gives it to you. Don't tell your mom. That's Jupiter. Jupiter will do that. Jupiter just wants to make you happy and give you good things when he's in his happy mode. When he's retrograde, then he becomes the lightning god, and that's a whole different deal. Then he's the most frightening being in the planet. Frightening being in the universe, the most powerful planet in our solar system next to the sun. So, technically he is a malefic, but, Saturn can also bring blessings depending on how he is in your chart. And how he is in your chart is a snapshot of your relationship to your own karma. So if you have chosen to face your karma and you've been choosing to change your reality and to choose to change your relationship to your own soul, then Saturn becomes your best friend. Saturn is the judge. So if you walk in front of the judge and you start mouthing off in front of the judge, he's going to go, that's contempt of court. Okay, that's double your sentence. All right, so keep going. We can still keep adding time onto you for as long as you want. Right? The judge will do that. But the judge also may decide to give you a more lenient sentence or to give you amnesty, to give you time served. So if, let's say, the judge is your uncle and he loves you, then he's gonna maybe not only get you off, but he might even connect you to who knows what. He has connections to everybody. Everybody, whatever they think about Saturn, they respect him. And so if Saturn is on your side, he can make you rich, he can make you prosperous, he can make you healthy, he can give you a long life. Saturn is the bringer of death and disease, but depending on where he is in your chart, he can give you an incredible long life. So for instance, I've got Saturn retrograde in my 6th house in Capricorn. That's some seriously strong Saturn energy. So that's how I've been through some shit in my life. All you have to do is, if you see Saturn retrograde in the 6th house in Capricorn, that means that Saturn has sat on that person's head for a very long time. But what ends up happening is that because he's in that house, he's in his own house. The thing about whenever you have a planet in their own house, even if it's a negative planet, that planet doesn't want to shit in his own house. When you've got a problem is when Saturn is aspecting you. If he's looking at you from another house, and depending on the situation, then he's going to give you a hard time. But if he's in his own house, he wants to be happy in his own house, which means that in the beginning, if you've got Saturn in the 6th house, you're going to have enemies, because Saturn 6th house is the house of enemies. And I did. I got bullied as a kid. I was the shortest kid in school. I always got beat up. I always got picked on. Nobody fucks with me now, and I'm healthy. I'm healthier than anybody else I know at my age. That's because Saturn in the house of disease says, I won't bring any disease to you. So Saturn can be your best friend. He isn't always your enemy. Black Earth Productions. Question: what would you say would be the cause, points, and effects that Saturn would have with the same planetary house placements in conjunction with Rahu, say via Leo in the 10th house? So I'm not sure I even understand what you're saying. So, by the way, before I go any further, Black Earth Productions has his own channel. I recommend you check it out. He's got his own website, blackearthproductions.com. So let me see if I understand your question here. What would you say would be the cause, points, and effects that Saturn would have with the same planetary house placements in conjunction with Rahu, say via Leo in the 10th house? So again, I'm not sure what you're saying. Are you saying that Leo is in the 10th house and either Rahu is there or Saturn is conjunct Rahu? Is that what you mean? I need you to be more specific because I want to answer your question, but it's too deep for me to understand right now. Question: why don't you put the How to Master the Matrix course on YouTube for everyone to learn and benefit from? I did. I don't know what you're talking about. The links are right there. I live in North Africa. We don't have PayPal to buy courses online. Oh, well. Sorry about that. So then Saturn is bringing restriction to you. So you're a blessed man. What that means is that, I'm assuming you're a man, it means that you have the 5 rules to master the matrix video. You don't have the entire course, but you have the video. So what you need to do is listen to that video and follow my instructions to the letter. I need you to stop And I know you're going crazy. You don't think you're going to survive. I read your, remember you sent me some other comments. I know you feel like you're not going to be able to live if you can't figure things out. I understand that. So what you need to do is you need to calm down and focus on what's right in front of you and believe that this is what will bring you out of that. Make the decision to own your life, take full responsibility, stop being a victim. It's easier said than done. You can feel however you need to feel, but make the decision you're not going to be a victim anymore. Make the decision that you are going to make the choices that will change your life in whatever way that is, whether that's moving to another country or whatever is going on. You have that power, but you first have to choose to accept that power. And then follow those 5 rules to master the matrix. Follow them to the letter every day. Okay? So there you go. That's the best I can tell you. All right, so let's see. Simple way of saying it. Saturn conjunct Rahu in Leo in the 10th house. Okay, so Leo in the 10th house is a very powerful placement for success. That's like a placement for a king because Leo is the king. The 10th house is the king standing on his portico in front of the, his country, and delivering his speech and creating the laws and all of that. He's ruling his world. And then you have Saturn in there. So Saturn wants to be in the 10th house. I know you understand that. So here we have a setup for Saturn, which is hard work. So Saturn in the 10th house is that you can work towards ruling the universe. Rahu comes in here. Rahu in the 10th house in Leo would make somebody, I think Donald Trump has Rahu in the 10th house. So, you can rule the world and there's no laws. No laws can touch you. You can break in fact, you can go in there and decide to just tear down all of the laws and break all the laws and nobody can stop you because you're Rahu. Rahu doesn't give a crap about anybody. He does whatever the hell he wants and he'll break the law. He'll lie to you. He'll do anything to do whatever the hell he wants. He's, This is Donald Trump. Donald Trump has has Rahu in Leo in the 10th house. I believe it's Leo in the 10th house. So Saturn conjunct Rahu it depends on who has the highest number of degrees. Because if Rahu has the highest number of degrees, he's in control. Then he's sitting in the throne of the judge. And if Saturn has the lowest number of degrees, then that could turn somebody into a criminal. Because when Saturn and Rahu, depending on how that's how you know criminals. Saturn and Rahu. So I'd need to learn a little bit more about that, but it is a tremendously powerful. Here's the problem: Rahu and Saturn. Well, Saturn doesn't do so well in Leo, as you know, because Saturn is not Saturn is the shadow of the sun, and he's now smack dab in the spotlight of the sun. So Saturn will bring restriction to that, to the aspect of the king. So I don't know, man. What's your experience? If that's you, are you talking about you? I mean, I could look up your chart. Is that you? That could be a frustrating scenario. So. Anyway, give me a little more information about that. All right, so let's see. I don't see any more questions here. So let me see. What else can we talk about? So let's talk about the 5 rules to master the matrix again. Go up here to either of these links, Well, let me talk about. No, I won't do that. I don't feel like selling anything right now. I want to share with you the 5 rules to master the matrix because I want you guys to be happy. So first thing we need to know is that it doesn't matter how you feel. I mean, I want you to be happy, so it does matter how you feel. Don't get me wrong. I believe that you should work through your feelings and talk through your feelings. I'm not trying to tell you to not have feelings. What I'm saying is that your feelings will not change your ability to master your universe. So this is where we need to have Saturn come in and put his thumb on, the people who channel Zohar and the other beings who say that the only thing you need to do is just be happy and focus on happy feelings and happy things will happen to you. Because the people who are going to those seminars are people who are sad and miserable and they don't have enough money and they can't just turn their feelings on and off. So I'm here to tell you it's okay. You don't have to have happy feelings all the time. And this is what the 5 rules to master the matrix is all about. So I can't remember them off the top of my head, but first thing is that you created the matrix. The matrix does exist. And this world that we live in, this universe, is a matrix. It's not a computer program. It is a life force energy matrix. This life force energy matrix has a consciousness. And it has a program. It is programmed to create this video game we call human life. You have chosen to put on this 3D avatar, which we call the human body. We have this controller, which is a brain. Scientists or doctors are saying that the brain is looking more and more like a quantum computer. And the soul interfaces with this quantum computer, and this is how you control your avatar and your soul gets to experience the virtual reality of being in 3 dimensions, because the soul is infinite. But it gets to live in this 3-dimensional meat bag avatar, and this is the controller right here. Okay, this is the hardware. The software that programs this quantum computer is your beliefs. So if you are born, as many of us are, in an Abrahamic religion, which is either Christianity, Islam, or Judaism, or some offshoot of that, then you have been told that you are a tiny, worthless piece of crap, and that there is this immense God who has made all these decisions for you, and your job is to bow to this tyrant and do stuff you don't want to do. And that your job is to wait around until God tells you it's okay to do something. You've been told that there is this force of evil called the devil who's out to destroy you and chew your soul up. And even though these religionists who tell you that God is all powerful, when you hear them talk about the devil, it sounds like the devil is maybe equal and they're fighting, and maybe he's a little bit more powerful than God. Because, poor God, he can't even get his people to worship him because this devil is lying to him and lying to them and seducing them away from the true God. So this one God really isn't all that powerful. He doesn't have a very good sales pitch. Because this devil, who's supposedly less powerful than him, is able to come along and steal all the souls away from him. So you've been told that there's this battle between good and evil, and that no matter what they say, you have a belief that evil is winning. You believe that demons and archons and other things can, even governments can come and take away your power. So that's how you've been programmed. That's the software in your hardware. The hardware is your quantum computer, which is your brain. The software is what you choose to believe. You can't change your hardware. Your hardware you need in order to interface, which is why you should treat your body well. If you use a lot of recreational chemicals, you fuck up this computer and its ability to send you the signals to your soul. So you separate from your soul that way. And the software you can change over time. And the way you change your software is through actions, not through intellectual beliefs. This is the difference between what I'm teaching and what Christianity teaches you, which is just believe in Jesus and you'll be saved. In other words, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what you feel, it just matters what you intellectually believe. which is nonsense. Your intellect is part of your computer. It's got nothing to do other than to help you interface with three-dimensional reality. Other than that, your intellect doesn't do a hell of a lot. So when you take action based on the assumption that you are infinite, that you chose to be here, and that this universe will respond to your desires, your deep desires of your soul. Got another comment, and it frustrates me. When people say stupid things, it frustrates me. When people are limited in their thought process, it frustrates me. I got frustrated by this one comment where the guy said, well, what if your desire is to snort coke, or smoke crack cocaine all day? That's not a very good desire. And I said, that's not a desire. I even said that. I said that there's a difference between, what you do to entertain yourself, distract yourself, and what your soul wants. Your soul desire will never be harmful to you. So that's what you need to focus on. You need to focus on what gives you joy, which is your soul desire. If you follow your soul desire, the universe goes, do you see what that guy did? That guy just took action towards what his soul wants him to do. Let's give him some money. You don't have money? I know why. Because you're not doing what your soul wants to do, and or you have a belief in your unconscious that you don't deserve money, or money is bad, or some other weird thing like that. Consciously, you may want money more than anything else, but unconsciously, you're fighting against yourself. So what do? Take action towards your soul desire, regardless of money, and the universe will throw money at you. I know this from personal experience. The universe responds positively to your positive, fearless actions. When you want to live in a house down the street and you don't have enough money to pay the rent, you take positive action and you go over and you sign a lease. If you do that and your soul, that is something your soul wants for you to do because it gives you joy and pleasure, the universe will go, he's going after his soul, let's get some money to him. Let's get him that promotion. Let's get him a new job. You will get it. You will get an idea. You'll finally get the idea you've been trying to figure out. How can I create a business for myself? That idea will finally pop into your head and you'll know how. I know because I've lived it. I know. I'm telling you, this is how it works. If you act out of fear, oh, I don't deserve that house, and I know that's what I want, but I should probably wait for more money. I'll just wait for more money, and then if I get the money, or if I get then I'll go after. Then the universe goes, man, I can't help you with that. The universe responds negatively when you respond out of fear or out of self-deprecation. When you don't believe in yourself and you don't take action on what you want, and you take action out of fear, then the universe responds in a way that makes you feel like you've been abandoned. And that's why people say, where is God? Where is mine? Why isn't God here? Why doesn't the universe give me what I want? It's because you're not taking fearless action on what you want. You don't believe that you deserve to have what you want. And when you act that way, the matrix is designed to respond exactly like that. To give you that feeling, and the idea is so that you get so frustrated of feeling crappy and having nothing in your life that you finally say, damn it, I'm going to go after what I want even if it kills me. And then everything changes. Then the universe gives you what you want. But you have to be fearless. All right, so there you go. There's some of the 5 rules to master the matrix. Out of the blue. So you're saying here that you're trying to put links to the 5 rules to master the matrix. Now, I hope you're talking about the free video. If you've bought the 5 rules to master the matrix course, and you're trying to give those links out for free, you and I are going to have problems because I haven't given you permission to do that. So I'm assuming what you mean is that you're trying to put the link to the video, the free video. You can do that, but he's already watched that. He already watched it. Let's see. Plastic surgery Beth. Question. Is there a point when it's too late to change? Yes, when you're dead. Maybe it's too late to break from my Christian upbringing and I should just cope with it. Is that what you want me to tell you? You want me to co-sign that for you? In order for me to co-sign that for you, it's going to cost you $10,000. You give me $10,000, I will go ahead and tell you, yeah, it's too late for you to break from your Christian upbringing. You should just deal with it and, not have a happy life and, not do what you want. I have a hard time being empathetic towards you right now. I've never understood that. I've never understood why people choose not to be happy. You're choosing not to be happy. Why are you doing that? Why aren't you furious and doing everything you can to change your programming? I don't understand it. Whatever misery comes to you, it's kind of like, that your Christian upbringing screwed up your thinking. And you're not willing to invest in yourself, to change yourself, to make yourself happy? Here's what I think. I don't really think that's how you feel. What I think is going on is that on an unconscious level, meaning you're not aware of it, on an unconscious level, you're afraid that if you break from your Christian upbringing beliefs, that you will be murdering your parents. Remember, the unconscious mind is not rational. It doesn't matter whether your parents are alive or dead. But this is why people regress. In fact, I'll share this with you. I was talking with somebody, I've shared it a little earlier. What I've noticed is that when people get to be between 30 and 40, somewhere in that, because in astrological understanding, once you hit 35, then you become an adult. Before 35, you're not an adult yet. And you don't know who you are and what you want until you get to be 35. Once you hit 35 and above, then you know who you are. So what I've seen is that, and I remember watching my brother go through this. I watched my sister go through it. I went through it and I did something different than they did. But I've seen people, either like people that I went to high school with and college with, who were just total rebels, total hippies. I'm not going to buy into, the system, man. And I'm not going to be like my parents, man. And love and freedom and truth and all that. And then they hit 35 and the next thing you know, they're born again Christians and they've become right-wing fundamentalist, conservative. They listen to talk radio and, they go and carry guns and then, they're racist and they're prejudiced and, everything that they weren't before. They became their parents. I watched my brother do that. My sister, too, in her own way, did the same thing. And I think the reason for that is that when people hit their true independence, which is right around 35, that they're forced to either break away from their parents or they revert back and they regress. And so they become like their parents because what they want is they want their parents' love and approval. So what I hear from you is that you want mommy and daddy's approval and you're too afraid to break away from them because you feel guilty. And you're doing it because you're protecting them. You're protecting your parents from your own evolution. So stop being a child. I'm having a hard time. My internet is having a hard time. I hate this area. Internet is so crappy here. So stop being a child. Grow up. Go ahead and break your parents' rules and believe what you want to believe and make yourself happy. Or you can continue to be miserable and just give up. It's up to you. It's up to you. I mean, it's hard for me to have compassion for somebody who chooses to be miserable. It's very hard for me to do that. Okay. Source of story. Question. This may be repeating, but how do we balance Jupiter's desire for our highest joy against Saturn's stern schoolmaster vibe? How do we break the parental cycle? So those are multiple questions right there. How do we balance Jupiter's desire for our highest joy against Saturn's stern schoolmaster vibe? Well, Saturn is doing his job. So you don't have to worry about balancing them out. It's not your job to balance them out. They're doing just fine balancing each other out. Saturn and Jupiter both are your best friends, and they both want to help you. So what we need to do, astrology.thunderwizard.com, what we need to do, let's get that up here so you guys know that that's available to you. Boink. Astrology.thunderwizard.com. So what we need to do is look at your chart, and we need to find out, do we need to placate Saturn so that he'll calm down? Do we need to bolster Jupiter to put Saturn in his place? Do we need to bolster Saturn to put Saturn in his place? Because when Saturn is out of alignment, he causes misery as well. He can be just as malefic as Saturn, depending on, how he is in the chart and all that kind of stuff. And Saturn can be your best friend. Some people, the best friend they have is Saturn. The goddess Kali, for instance. If you look at Kali, her, am I saying this right? Her iconography, her picture is she's very frightening to look at. She's got severed skulls around her neck. She's got severed arms as a skirt. She's naked, and blood is pouring out of her mouth. She's a very frightening being, but she is Saturn. She is the mother, and she ruthlessly will come and clean out your karmic issues and your character defects that are keeping you from having your highest awareness. So, how do we balance them out? You need to figure out which one to worship. And for that, you need an astrologer who knows how to look at your chart. So I can't give you the one answer, because the one answer for me is not the one answer for you. All right. Black Earth Productions. Oh, that's not a question. Okay. Let's see. What else do we got here? I don't see anything else here. All right. So I'm going to go into some. If you guys don't have questions, then I'm gonna go into some sales here. So for the month of May, as we said, 2 for 1. If you want to learn the astrology that I teach, let me find those links. If you want to learn the astrology that I teach, hang on one second here. Nope. Why is that not coming up? If you want to learn the astrology that I teach, go to 2for1.thunderwizard.com, and I'll explain to you how all that works. Sorry, I'm playing around with my new software here. Okay. So, if you decide to become certified by me, what will happen is that I will give you a website of your own. You will be placed on the Thunder Wizard astrology page, which is astrology.thunderwizard.com. And on that page, you will have your own spot where people can buy a reading from you if I certify you. You have to go through my training. The astrology that I give, the astrology reading, is unique. And ask anybody who's had a reading from me. What I focus on is the things in your chart that you can use throughout your life. There are all kinds, most of the time when you get a reading from even a Vedic astrologer, what they're going to want to do is they're going to want to look at, oh, here's this transit here and this transit there, and they give you a bunch of things. And I was just talking with somebody the other day, and they were just overwhelmed. They just said, I didn't know what the hell this person was talking about. And then they saw, this is somebody who took my certification course, and they said, Mike, you made it so simple. I totally get it. The things that I give you are things you can apply in your life forever. It's not going to be in 2 weeks, it'll be different. All right. And one of the things that we talk about, which I'm doing some videos on, is the Arruda, which is your reflection, the reflection of your personality. Your people don't see you as you really are, they see you as you are reflected to them. And when you know what your reflection is, and you know how to expand your reflection and to empower it, people give you money, they give you jobs, they sleep with you, they'll be your friends. It's the most powerful thing for your success. So if you want that, you can take that from me, 2for1.thunderwizard.com, and you can learn that. And then I'll teach you rune certification as well. And for the rune certification, the same thing will happen. I'll give you, I'll put your beautiful face on the runereadings.thunderwizard.com page. And people will go there and they can get a reading from you. And I will give you, again, your own page, joeschmo.thunderwizard.com. And then what happens is you can put that on a business card, and then whatever other links you have to whatever other businesses, I'll put that on your page. Okay? So to check all that out, you can go to 2for1.thunderwizard.com and enjoy that. All right, so now, are you guys bored? You can see, if you don't ask a question, I'm going to start selling you on stuff. So if you don't want to hear me sell you stuff, you better ask a question. All right. Amy Luann, question. Are people able to see past the Arruda to the true soul of a person after marriage or with a close friend? Yeah. But I don't know why you're asking that question. Part of the lesson of the Arruda is to be comfortable with allowing people their experience of you. Because here is the sad truth of the matter. The sad truth of the matter is that there's always going to be something in you that nobody else will ever be able to see or experience. Even if it's your soulmate. Even if it's your deepest soulmate, there's going to be something that they will never get about you or never see about you. So part of what we have going on in our modern society is this, we are isolated. And for all the reasons I talked about earlier, we are isolated. We feel isolated. We walk around saying, I just wish people loved me for who I am. That will never happen. People will love you based on what you do for them. That's not a bad thing. The only beings in the world who are loved for who they are infants, and they are loved by their mother, who wants nothing from them, ideally. The mother is the only being in the world that will reflect back to you your true essence without any agenda. Everybody else will have an agenda. Your husband, your friend, your children definitely have agendas. So allow people to have their experience of you. Your job is to experience yourself from your soul, which you can do through your spiritual practice. This is the idea of spiritual practice. When you know yourself, then it doesn't matter how people see you or don't see you. Then you become aware of, how can I best interface with this person? And you got to learn what your partner is, your husband or your wife. You got to learn their quirks. You got to learn how to talk to them. You got to learn what makes them happy. It's just like, making love, having sex. You learn what they want, and you learn how to ask for what you want. Sometimes they intuitively know how to give you exactly what you want, but most of the time you have to either finagle what you want out of it, or you got to tell them what you want. People are never going to love you for who you are. They are going to love you for what you do for them, and that's just the fact of the matter. Okay? But it doesn't mean that people can't get to know you more. But the thing is that your Arruda will help you learn who you are. Because the truth is, you may not know who you are. You may think you know who you are, but you may be wrong. Your Arruda, and your Arruda is there so that you can love yourself more as well. The more that you operate from your Arruda, which will force you to be fearless and force you to love yourself and honor yourself, the more you will find out who you really are. And, even this idea of, see past the Arruda to the true soul of the person, that's all arbitrary too. The being that you have, the identity that even your soul has said, this is my identity, is an illusion. Okay, so that's one of the things that Ketu will tell you. Ketu comes and says to you, listen, it's all an illusion. Get rid of all of it. I know this, because as an actor, I learned this. I was one of those method actors. So if I was going to play a character, I would really get into that. And I would spend, I don't even know how many hours, but like if I was working on a role, I would either be walking around or I'd be by myself or lying in bed with my eyes closed, and I would be creating an entire life. I would read the script and I would take whatever the character said and I would go, why would they say that? What happened in their life that would make them need to say that or want that? And I would create a life for themselves. In essence, what I was doing is I was building an unconscious for another personality. That personality would start to take over. And when I would go out on stage, that personality would take over. And I would have all the feelings and the emotions. And then when it was over, I'd have to bring myself out. Sometimes, like if I played really intense characters, I would have to just sort of bring myself back into my own body. That taught me something, that who you think you are is your own construction. It's your own character that you've built. You don't know who the hell you are. And the more that you do your spiritual work and get in touch with your soul, the less you care about any of that stuff. So instead of trying to get people to love you for who you are, try and accept them for who they are. Try and look past their Arruda. That's going to be far more fulfilling than having them meet you where you want them to meet you. Black Earth Productions question, what could you share about Saturn and Virgo in the 6th house? That's a pretty powerful place for Saturn. Saturn and Virgo in the 6th house means that person may have a long life. That person will be able to stand up to enemies. It's going to make that person incredibly perfectionist about their work. It's going to give them a very strong work ethic and make them a perfectionist in their work. I would need to know what the other, what is Saturn aspecting and all that kind of stuff, but just based on that. Jupiter in Leo in the 9th house is the fucking benefic king, or the 9th house, sorry. Jupiter in Leo in the 9th house is the king who becomes the priest. So you've got Leo, the power of the king, shining on to the temple, and you've got the priest in the temple. So Jupiter loves Leo. So Jupiter, like we talked about earlier, at the beginning of the solar system, Jupiter was the first planet that was created, and it circled so close to the sun that no other planets were able to be created until Saturn came in and they fought, and then Saturn and Jupiter flew out to where they are now. So Jupiter loves the sun, and Jupiter should be very happy there. So that would be a very powerful kingly sort of priest. Oh, wait, no. He says, Saturn and Virgo in the 9th house. Saturn and Virgo in the 9th house. Well, that's going to create, that could create all kinds of things. I want to give that, I want to do more than a superficial reading of that. Because when you have planets that aren't happy in the 9th house, it tends to create distance. So Saturn is going to create distance to one's spirituality. And it may make somebody even really critical, super critical about religion. It's one of the things it could do. But I would want to look more deeply at that. So when you have something, when you have a planet that's not happy in a certain house or a certain sign, then you have to take a look at that. So for instance, like Venus, if you put Venus in the ninth house, you would think, oh, that's going to make somebody a really like loving priest or priestess. What it can do is it can turn somebody into somebody who make them very sexual because they start to break the rules. They start to like put all kinds of spiritual things all over the walls of their house, but they don't follow religion because Venus doesn't want to be in the ninth house. Venus doesn't want to go to the temple and be hemmed in by the rules. Venus wants to be in other places like the fourth house or the 12th house, things like that. So sorry I couldn't get more deep on that. I'm actually in a phase where I'm going deeper in my understandings, and so this is one where I would go, let me look deeper in this before I can answer that. Amy Luann question also, do couples sometimes break up because of seeing the true personality of their partner after they realize that person is not the Arruda they fell in love with? Yeah, of course. You can look at somebody's chart now that I've got the benefit of hindsight. There are things where you can see, who your first wife or husband is going to be and what will happen. Will the relationship last? If it's going to break up, how is it going to break up? And as it turned out, my first wife fell in the slot in the house, in my second house, which is the 12th from my third house. Third house is my Arruda. The 12th house takes away from whatever, the house, whatever's 12th to a house, that house will take away. And so that meant that she worked against my Arruda, which is exactly what happened. Every time that I would do something to create my business, she would come in and try and take it away. And she was threatened by my business. And so I couldn't succeed. And then she would complain that I didn't have enough money. And I'm like, I'm trying to, but every time I do something, you tell me I'm not spending enough time with you, and I have to stop doing it because you won't let me. I wouldn't, I could have. But anyway, that's one of the reasons we broke up, is because she was getting in the way of my success. But, again, you've got this loaded question here, which is after they realize the person is not the Arruda they fell in love with, you've got a loaded question in there, and it sounds like you're wanting me to side with you over, and I don't know enough. If I talk to him, he's probably going to tell me something totally different. And so I don't know if it's because, he didn't recognize your Arruda, or that you realized, if you're the one that's saying that he didn't live up to your expectations, it may be that you didn't know, you weren't supporting him. So again, that's a loaded question, and of course I can say yes to that, but I don't want to without knowing enough information. I don't want to co-sign what could be your own denial of your, you might have been the one that destroyed the relationship. I would need far more information. But the short answer is yes, of course that can happen. John Burnham question, in Vedic, what comes to mind for my chart having Mercury and Venus conjunct in the 6th house in the sign of Cancer? What comes to mind is that I would like to look at your whole chart before I make any decisions about that. Venus isn't going to be all that happy in the 6th house. Mercury might be. Mercury and Venus conjunct. Mercury and Venus conjunct, by the way, is one of the indicators for bisexuality. So I don't know if you're trying to tell us you're bisexual or not, but that's one of the ways you find somebody's bisexual. Anyway, I'd need to look at your whole chart before I could really give it a better, go deeper. My brain is starting to hurt. Ya Shimon question. Can taking action on my soul desire be hindered by any outside force? No. What is the outside force? The outside force is the universe. I've already told you that the universe is programmed to support you whenever you follow your true soul desire. That doesn't mean that it's going to necessarily be easy, because let me explain to you how the whole lessons work, what karma is. You came into this life with a soul desire. Your soul said, I want to do this, and in order to do this, I'm going to make this activity my greatest joy. So that's in your soul desire. Now, the whole purpose for being here is to learn how to live from the soul. If there is no Saturn, no karma, then you don't learn anything, because it's like knowing all the rules to the video game and it's just too easy and you win every time and it's boring. So you've chosen to make it more challenging for yourself by bringing in karmic issues. Now, the karmic issues that stand between you and you following your soul desire will always be centered around wanting to please other people. That means you're either going to want people to approve of you, or you're going to want to fit into society, or you're going to want to fit into religion, or you're going to fight with all of these things. And the whole karmic issue that comes up when you go after your soul desire, yeah, people may stand up and block your way. Circumstances may arise that may make it very challenging, and you will be forced to look at that. And are you going to take the bait and, like somebody said earlier, and just give up? Or are you going to say, you know what, I'm willing to die for this. This is what makes me happy, and I am going to do it or I'm going to die. If you take that attitude, then what ends up happening is you are given the resources to overcome whatever obstacles come in front of you. So what you're asking me is, are people more powerful than your soul desire? And the answer to that is no. But that doesn't mean that you won't have challenges. But as long as you understand that your soul desire has to happen, and if you follow it, the universe will, to be like the movies where all of a sudden everything comes together at the last minute and some miraculous thing happens that allows you to follow your true path. This is the whole reason you're here. Yeah. So again, you're looking at everything outside of you as being your enemy, and you're missing the assumption. The assumption is that you've created everything, including your planetary issues, including your family, including your religion, including your mind, including your abilities. So the other thing is that, lots of times we have to find out what our true abilities are, and we have to use the situation to our advantage. So this is why, again, get a reading from me, because then I can look at it and see, how best for you to navigate the situations that you have created for yourself in this life. Amy Luann question, worded differently. Is the Arruda what we fall in love with a person? Not always. My last, my partner, my soulmate, who has been gone for over a year and a half now, she absolutely fell in love with my Arruda. In fact, she loved my Arruda so much that I learned what my Arruda was just by being with her. Because I'd be with her and she would start telling me, you're so amazing for these reasons. And she'd start listing all of these things that I was totally unaware of. And because I loved her so much, I wanted to be that. Because I saw how happy it made her, and making her happy was more important to me than anything. So I became that. And it wasn't until, towards the end that I realized, oh my God, that was the reason why she came here. She lifted up the mirror and said, here's who you truly are. Go get him, tiger. My career completely changed as a result of that. So, depending on what the karma is, like my first wife, the karma is that she worked against my Arruda, because my karmic issue was to learn to accept my Arruda what I wanted. You know, this whole thing about wanting to follow my soul desire came out of that marriage, because I was living for another person and trying to fit into her idea of who I was supposed to be, and I was making myself sick. And I finally just decided one day that I was going to do everything I wanted to do. I was physically sick. I mean, it's hard to think about it now because I'm so healthy and strong now. But, you know, I thought I was old. I was 49 years old. I thought I was old, and I thought that I was never going to be able to do all the things I love to do. And I said, fuck that. I'm going to do everything I've always wanted to do. I'm going to go surfing again. I'm going to lift weights again. I'm going to do this again. I'm going to do this again. Blah, 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 blah. Even though my body and the doctors were saying, oh, you'll never do that. Your joints are screwed up. And blah, blah. And now I don't have any problems. I don't have any health issues whatsoever. She was brought into my life so that I would be forced to get to that place where I chose my desires over the limitations I was experiencing. That's why I chose to marry her on a spiritual level. Okay, so Chima Tilly question. Number one, I'm not a Western astrologer, so please don't ask me questions about Western astrology. Are people born on 23rd, 1998? So that sounds like Western astrology. You know, Vedic astrology is different, and you have to have exact times, and I'm not going to do your reading for you. If you want a reading from me, you can go to astrology.thunderwizard.com. Astrology.thunderwizard.com, and I'll be happy to give you a reading. All right. I don't see anything else. So I am going to call it an evening. The internet is fighting with me. Must be a lot of people playing World of Warcraft or whatever. So that's it. Okay, so keep your eyes open for the next, week or two. I'll probably flood my channel with videos, and then I'm going to be focused on leaving. In case you didn't know, I am getting off of this rock, the United States, and I'm going to go live in right here. This is going to be, let me get rid of all this stuff here for a second. Where's that link? Okay, let's get rid of this. I'm going to go live right here. That is going to be my front yard. It's going to be right across the street from my house, at least for the first month. I am walking away from my entire life here in the U.S. Completely. I'm going to be living out of a suitcase. And I'm not technically able to become a citizen over there because I'm too old. I'm going to go over there and see what I can do to make that happen. So I'm living it. I don't tell you guys to do something I myself am not willing to do. And part of what I'm doing here with this channel is I am giving you a real-time, you can test me on everything that I teach. You can see it in my life. And if you don't see it reflected in my life, then you should find another teacher. This is why, I give Zohar such a hard time. I'm not going to say who the person's name is, but the people who claim to channel extraterrestrials, and they don't have the balls to come out and say, here's what I've learned, this is what I believe. Instead, they want to spiritualize it because they don't think that you're smart enough to figure it out on your own. So I want to show you that I'm living this. There's nothing that I teach that I myself either haven't done in the past or am doing right now. And if I come up and find out that something doesn't work, I'm going to tell you. Okay? So the best way, if you want to support this channel, let me show you how to do that. Best way to support this channel is to go to, is this the one? Yep. Best way to support this channel is to go up here to neo.thunderwizard.com. And what I want you to do, and I'm telling you, I have nailed down the 4 most important things that I think are going to benefit your life. And these 4 things are, number 1, you have to figure out what your soul desire is. Second thing you need to do is you need to get life force energy into your body so that you can change yourself and change your body and change your DNA so that you can vibrate on a higher level so that you can live your true soul desire. The third thing is you need to find out what the 5 rules to master the matrix are. And then you'll be able to make the universe bend to your will. And then the fourth thing is we need to have this interface. We need to continue to create a community. And there on that channel, on the thunderwizard.com channel, there is the Manifestation Mastery course. And I go into detail, and I will be doing live Q&As. When my internet connection gets better, we'll do more of those, where you can have come in and have a real one-to-one, and I will answer more in-depth questions, and I'll ask you questions, and there'll be more back and forth. We need to have the community. We can't do it by ourselves. You cannot heal yourself. You must do it in a community. A brain surgeon cannot do brain surgery on themselves. Even a brain surgeon must go to another brain surgeon to have brain surgery. You have to do it in a community. So go to neo.thunderwizard.com. That's the best way to support this channel. And in my experience and in my opinion, I think it's the most powerful thing you can do for your own happiness, prosperity, and awareness. Okay? All right, so that's all for me tonight, unless there's a question that gets my attention. Astronomical Hero question: where am I and what are we learning? Too late, man. Got to come in earlier. You can watch it from the beginning. All right, that's it for me. I talk to you guys later.